Good afternoon, Eastern Washington. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from the capital of free Washington. Hopefully one day, state of liberty. I mean it. It's coming. Liberty State is coming, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But brought to you by the committee-elect Matt Shea, Republican, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you this story, behind the story in the news, behind the news. Once again, it's not about right or left. It's about right and wrong. And we need to do the hard work to implement freedom because our hope is not in man but in Jesus Christ. And we can't end in prayer. We must also move to action and become, as Exodus 15:3 says, the Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name. Are we warriors? Are we his warriors? Well, let's talk a little bit about the Liberty State Project. Officially now, 1,000 people have weighed in, and now a flag has been chosen for Liberty State. The official flag now, based on that vote, the osprey with the broken shackles and one broken sword is what finally won. And it really looks, I mean, it's a fantastic flag. And I want to go through a couple things on it really quick because there's some things that, you need to, when you look at the symbolism of this osprey with the blue background and then the 3 stars above, and then below you have liberty founded in truth. But the osprey represents, obviously, freedom, and that is a symbol that is specifically tied to this area of the American Redoubt. In addition, the broken chains, obviously, represent overcoming oppression and government dependency, and the broken sword symbolizes the sacrifices made by everyone who is fighting for Liberty State. The wheat that's at the bottom, that signifies abundance of natural resources, and we have them here. I mean, largest potato-producing county, number 5 in wheat. I mean, we just, in the world, we're one of the agricultural centers of the world, actually. The stars above symbolize our values, resilience, rule of law, and opportunity. The blue background resembles peace, loyalty, and integrity. And also, I think the background color, that background color of blue, is symbolic of something that the pioneers and the explorers really recognize, and that is the Columbia River that goes all the way through Liberty State. Really is a source of wealth and prosperity. So there's a little bit of an explanation of the flag. Now, we are ordering up flags right now. If you want to get a flag, go to Patriot Radio, message me that you want to get a flag, and I'm going to send you the links, and we're going to get these in stock soon. We want them flown all over Eastern Washington. And I tell you something else. Liberty doesn't have any boundaries, so if there's folks in Idaho that want to fly them, awesome. But we really want to have as many flags out there flying throughout Eastern Washington as we possibly can. And I know there are thousands of you out there because thousands of you have voted. Thousands of you have joined the group, joined the 51st State Movement. Thousands of you have been emailing and messaging. So now it's the time to show that you support Liberty State. I'm really excited about this, as you can tell, and it's about time. And we have been really working at this for a while. A lot of great professional people. The Beal family doing a terrific job helping us with this, as well as many others. Many, many others. And my thanks and hat goes off to you because this is a grassroots movement. It is from the ground up, and it is changing politics in this area of the country. It's actually changing it around the United States, too. So get involved, get a flag. We're also going to get bumper stickers out here very quickly. Seattle, not my... This is awesome. There's Olympia, not my capital, and Seattle, no thanks. I love them. And, it really encapsulates what we believe over here. Because honestly, there are two completely divergent worldviews. You have the unsubstantiated craziness of socialism that is just enshrined over in Seattle. In fact, it's worshipped in Seattle. And then in Eastern Washington, you have folks that are getting their hands dirty, know what America is still all about, believe in those key values, core values that has made this country great. And that's fine. They can believe that way. We don't have to be in the same state as them. And Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution recognizes that states can split in these scenarios where you have completely different, totally divergent worldviews. And then maybe, guys like Sean Vestal can go write for Seattle Times or something, because they clearly don't reflect the majority view in Eastern Washington, not even by a long shot, and not even in an objective, logical fashion either. But I digress. And that brings us now to your daily intelligence briefing in the international front. Once again, Kurdish independence vote coming up here on September 25th. Now, there is this new announcement from President Trump that 4,000 troops are going to go into Afghanistan, although he says that we're going in to win. Now, again, we need to follow the Constitution. If we're going to declare war, we need to declare war, have the debate in Congress, and do that. And if we're going to go in to win, great. And then we get out and go home. Perfect. No nation building. And I agreed with that statement that Trump made. No nation building. But they're missing another key piece of the Constitution that is very overlooked nowadays, and it's called letters of marque and reprisal. And why did the founders include that in the Constitution? Because they were dealing with similar problems back then. There were groups literally of Islamic pirates who were terrorizing American shipping. And you can't necessarily go after a country, as it were, but you can go after a group. And letters of marque and reprisal were put in the Constitution so we could go after non-state groups. Either it could be an individual, but I mean, most of the time, obviously, it was a group of people. And that's important to understand. It's important to understand that that is in the Constitution for this very scenario. And I think we need to take a look at, is that going to be used in the future? Because it should be, especially in this type of non-state warfare that's going on right now. All right, moving next to North Korea. And I want to highlight something. This made a blip on the radar screen, no pun intended, of the news, where there was a second U.S. ship collision. Many experts now concerned, and the New American had an article on this, that this may have been a hack. That the guidance system for the U.S. Navy ship had been hacked, and that may have been what happened before, too. We don't know. But it did happen in one of the busiest shipping lanes. Quarter of the world shipping goes through the Strait of Malacca. But I really believe that we need to take a look at that possibility. And it should be investigated, at the very least. And North Korea has made some more threats, and they're doing their usual posturing. It's not as close as it was here a few short days ago. It just isn't. Now, there are news outlets around the country that were trying to downplay the North Korean threat. And I'm just going to say this one time, that those people have an agenda to lull everyone here into complacency. And not only that, sometimes I wonder if they don't receive the same information that some of us do. They just ignore it. But in either case, facts are facts. And there were many people, and this will be written about years from now, there are many people that believe we were as close as we had been since the Cuban Missile Crisis to a major, major war. And, I don't think it's alarmist or anything to recognize and understand the threat and appropriately prepare. Understanding the threat is really our duty as Americans. And you don't dwell on it all the time or anything like that, or let it consume your life, but you understand the viable threats that are out there. And North Korea is a viable threat. And many people have written on that, and I just find it hilarious that the media just kind of ignores all of those people that have written about that are experts in the region, that are military, that are intelligence community folks, and just say, oh, no, we know better. Just like that whole Russian alleged fiasco with Donald Trump, that ends up being totally a hoax. Unbelievable. And by the way, that's apparently now being investigated, actually, this dossier that was made on Trump. So good. I hope they run that all the way to the ground. Also on the international front, we talked about terror in Barcelona, that these Moroccan terror cells had come up from the south into Europe. And then this very underreported knife attack in Finland by another Moroccan. You don't hear a lot about terrorist attacks necessarily in Finland. Maybe Sweden, yes, but not Finland. But ISIS also put out a video from New York, and they're saying that their cells are everywhere. So, again, just be aware of your surroundings. But every time they put something out like that, they have some intent, and it may not be in the U.S., may still be in Europe, but some intent to continue these attacks. And right now, we've had almost an attack a week in the last few months. If you add them all up, it's incredible. All right, on the international front as well, Venezuelan civil unrest. Nicolas Maduro formally establishing his dictatorship and precipitating what is the beginning stages of what looks like a civil war down there. Now, President Trump has said that military action in Venezuela is not off the table. It has been the proclivity of the United States throughout our history to intervene in areas that close to the U.S. But, again, have they directly threatened the United States of America? It's interesting, too, that some of the Venezuelan opposition folks have gone underground now and gone fairly silent. So it's going to be interesting to see if they don't establish a communication hub, some way to get information out better than what they have right now. And whether they comment on this widely. And if somebody out there in Patriot Radio land knows of some posts from Venezuela, from the opposition, on Donald Trump's comments about military action, it would be great if you could send them to me. Also on the intelligence, in the intelligence briefing on the international front, and this is very interesting, finally a mainstream media outlet acknowledged this had happened, but more on this weird sonic weapon attack, which is an apparent attack that happened in Cuba to U.S. Embassy personnel. American diplomats in Cuba, and this is coming from Liberty News Daily, have apparently suffered very severe injuries, and more information is coming out. This includes mild traumatic brain injury and damage to the central nervous system. And that those that were injured were in homes that they lived in provided by the Cuban government. A Canadian diplomat now is being reported as to have similar symptoms, and apparently CBS News has confirmed that, according to medical records, some of these American diplomats indeed have received these injuries. So this is kind of a story that is continuing to develop, that is not being talked about widely. But if there was an attack on U.S. diplomats in Cuba, that's an act of war. And I don't think that this should go underreported. It's very strange, the media blackout on this until yesterday. Very strange. Also on the national front, safe and legal abortion apparently is not so safe. In New Mexico, a 23-year-old woman died of a late-term abortion at Southwestern Women's Options Clinic. in New Mexico. And this is one of the things that we have been talking about here in Washington State for a very long time, that there needs to be parental notification and consent for these things, because literally it is a life and death decision. It's not just a simple procedure, as some people say. And this is not to mention, it's a human life. It is a human life that is being killed in the womb. And these late-term abortions are extraordinarily dangerous. And all of this, propaganda coming out of Planned Parenthood, and you got to wonder if this 23-year-old woman knew all the risks and dangers, if she really truly had informed consent. There was an incident in Washington State where someone almost bled to death. So I find it curious that the medical standards required in almost every other area don't really apply necessarily to these clinics. And some people say, well, it's not exactly true. Well, in Washington State, there isn't really truly informed consent. Based on what I would consider informed consent, that you could possibly bleed out and die. And making them understand also that they're terminating a human life. So it's kind of interesting that still in this debate, some people will say that there is really not a lot of risk. Well, there's definitely a risk to the baby. And obviously there's a risk to the mother. Also on the national front, down in Phoenix, the communist forces fizzled out, and Donald Trump actually alluded to Sheriff Joe Arpaio's pardon. Even though the White House is saying he's not going to talk about it, he said, let me just say that Sheriff Arpaio is going to be just fine. So it sounds like he's alluding to the fact that maybe there is a pardon in the works. Also, a 49-page manual leaked on taking down Donald Trump. And then, and folks, I want to be very clear about this. It's been circulating on the internet. Some people have doubted the veracity of this, but there is an 8-page manual, an Antifa manual, that was acquired at Evergreen State College, and it is real. And it was not meant necessarily, apparently, to be given to conservatives, because it actually says that on the cover, don't give it to conservatives, but it was acquired. And it's out there. You need to take a look at this manual, because it really talks about where these people want to go with fomenting chaos and unrest and violence in this country. And I also want to mention something else when we talk about what is happening in America, that the communists, the socialists, will find ways to align with what many would call the establishment Republicans, Republicans that are more liberal. There's all kinds of different names for it. But that they would establish these relationships with the intent of destroying conservative Republicans, to take out conservative Republicans. And there have been many books written about this tactic and strategy, because it is a strategy from the sense that, this joining of forces, but it's also a tactic in the targeting of conservative Republicans by this unholy alliance. And it has happened literally for 4 decades at least, probably 5. Somebody's going to send me a text message here. But it's also important to understand that it happens at the local level. There are a lot of times at the local level that this will happen. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, but it's important to understand that this is intentional, it's methodical, it's according to goals and objectives. It isn't just some accident. And we need to be as intentional. We need to use technology and leverage. I've been talking to conservatives, and they're so afraid, especially folks in the baby boom generation of using technology to spread the message of freedom and liberty. Why? Why not use technology as a tactic to bring about more awareness in the community and mobilize those people who are conservative, who are not voting? Why not? I mean, it is unfathomable to me not to use all of the equipment you got in the toolbox to retake ground that has been lost to the left. I don't understand that. And it's like, people are making excuses just not to get involved. And we need to use everything at our fingertips. And there are a great many technologically savvy conservatives out there trying to implement this technology. And it's one of the ways that we can fight back against this communist infiltration and this intentional chaos, because we can move information so fast now that we can blunt the falsehoods and outright lies that come out of not only the left, but come out of some of the media too. Also on the national front, judge fired for being a Christian appealing directly to the United States Supreme Court. Aside from the fact there should be no religious test, it has been a long-standing right acknowledged in the United States of America, the right of conscientious objection, the right not to participate in an activity based on sincerely held beliefs. And it's interesting, the left really used that one during the Vietnam War, but maybe not so much when it comes to a judge who doesn't want to perform same-sex wedding ceremonies. You got to be consistent, because if people don't have the right of conscience, that is tyranny. Also on the national front, and ironic, the IRS rehires personnel fired for targeting conservatives. Now, the Trump administration should do an investigation into this. They absolutely should. And it is unconscionable that some of these people would have been rehired. The ones that intentionally targeted conservatives because they were conservative, delayed response for their applications, sometimes 2 and 3 years, because of their political belief. Wow. And by the way, you know who actually used to do that? Fascists. So that's ironic that the left would try to use the organs of government to target people for their political beliefs and then say they're anti-fascist. And by the way, fascism is an economic system in modern times brought about by Benito Mussolini. National Socialism, which was in Germany, actually had even more control over the economy. So you're talking about varied levels of control over the economy, and specifically control over capital, the means of production. Did government own the capital? Control the capital? Both, which is communism. Kind of the most honest about it. We're just going to own and control everything. So don't get into these, they try to redefine words away from the historical context of where these things came from. But very importantly, the principle is the same. They are projecting, they are calling conservatives what they actually are themselves. On the regional front, once again, minimum wage is a complete failure in Seattle. 9% reduction in hours. Then you have $100 million lost payroll. Most of that is going to come at the expense of unskilled labor and the young, those new to the workforce. It's also going to bring about automation, by the way. And those jobs aren't going to come back. So then you have to retrain an entire workforce to do something else. Now, there are always going to probably be machining jobs. There'll probably always be some form of restaurant jobs. There'll probably always be some form of computer programming and robotics and those kind of things. But people got to have to be retrained for that. Can't just kick them out, but that's what's happening because of minimum wage. It is ruining people's ability to get into the workforce. Also on the regional front, the Bundy Ranch trial down in Nevada. Not guilty verdicts for 34 of the counts and 6 of the remaining counts hung. And now the federal government, the Department of Justice, is going to retry for a third time on those 6 hung counts. What happened to speedy trial? I mean, this is persecution, folks. And I got to tell you, I'm talking with some people about the response to this. Because how many times do you get brought before a court? And by the way, the court was totally stacked in favor of the prosecution. I mean, they lost now in 2 separate states 3 times, albeit the second trial was a hung jury all the way across. But obviously the jurors coming from totally different walks of life are seeing something, that the government is being heavy-handed and that these guys should not be on trial at all and that they were indeed peaceful protesters. Also on the regional front, Department of Interior is still taking comments on all regulations. So we're talking for the BLM and the Park Service. They, among others, they want comments on all of the regulations that have been used by bureaucrats to tyrannize people. So I think this is great. It's our opportunity to speak up. So if you know people, weigh in on this. You can see it on the Facebook page and also on Patriot Radio's Facebook page. Take advantage. Something very, very important that we should all be doing. All right. Also on the local front, really want to give thanks to the Spokane Valley City Council. They gave us a nice proclamation last night recognizing the legislative delegation's service to the community. Really thank them for everything that they're doing. And far more importantly, they were responsible for bringing the healing wall to Spokane Valley. We were at the opening ceremony this morning. It was interesting to see all the folks that were there. If you don't know what the healing wall is, it's a very emotional thing. It's essentially a portable Vietnam memorial wall. And also they have a trailer that has some TV screens on it that show the local folks from the area who were lost in that war. Very emotional. I went with my father. We had, it was just a tremendous time to be able to remember those and remember the family members that were left behind too. They also had a Huey there, and right from the era, it's pretty fantastic and amazing. And it's out right now at Miraboo Meadows. That's the park behind Center Place. If you get a chance, you can go out there. They're going to be there 24/7. They're going to be reading names periodically, I think at 10 and 6 every day, ringing the bells for all the people that have been killed from our area in the Vietnam War. And just very moving. Ed Pace did a great job with his speech today and honoring all those who have fallen. So if you get a chance, make your way out there. It's really a special memorial. And again, thanks to the Spokane Valley City Council for getting that to come to our area. Just really emotional and really touching. Just tremendous. Lastly, on the local front, if you get a chance, still weigh in on the Al French, Josh Kearns emails, afrench@SpokaneCounty.org, J Kearns, JKERNS at SpokaneCounty.org. And the reason you're emailing them, tell them that you would like to see Rob Chase the number 1 pick for county commissioners, since he was the number 1 pick of the PCOs. And that's the briefing. Remember, the antidote to dependency and socialism is to be a God-fearing, self-reliant, freedom-loving American. Thank you to everybody that has been praying for us. And make sure you go to Facebook/Patriot Radio US. Like the page, share it with your friends and family. And if you like the show, you want to donate, you can go to voteshea, vote.com, upper right-hand corner, vote.com. Well, it's my pleasure today to introduce a member of the Spokane Valley City Council, my good friend Caleb Collier, former Marine, and really a true freedom fighter. Caleb, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks, Matt. It's always great to be here. Still always a little surreal for me, but I just love it, and I feel like I'm getting better every time.
Well, you did a great job when you filled in here a few weeks ago, and I had many positive responses. Well, I want to talk to you just let's get real about some things. So I was talking a little bit earlier in the show about the fact that there is kind of an unholy alliance sometimes between some Republicans and these communists and socialists, and we're starting to see that, unfortunately, in Spokane County, where the progressives, and they were wide open about this until they realized we were actually on the internet and screen capturing all of this, wide open about this, that they were going to run a slate of candidates against the sitting Spokane Valley City Council. And then they went out, and now some Republicans, unfortunately, are trying to get them to become Republicans. This is a chameleon strategy. This is what the left always does. They try to hide what their true intentions are. Caleb, you've been fighting progressivism for a while now. Can you kind of give a little bit of the history of how long, how far back this fight goes, and what the impact of these progressives trying to take over the Spokane Valley City Council would be?
Absolutely. I've actually been doing quite a bit of reading on President Calvin Coolidge, Silent Cal, the one who never said anything, but he was actually at the forefront of fighting progressivism, and that's really when we saw progressivism take a hold on the American continent. Was during that era, during the 20s, and just prior to him with Woodrow Wilson, and so he really understood what this bane that was attempting to take over, the cause for liberty, what it really was, and how best to fight it. He has a quote that he said, "American ideals do not require to be changed so much as they require to be understood and applied." And that's really the lie of progressivism, is that the old system, it needs to be done away with. We've evolved beyond that. And in reality, the system isn't broken. It's just the understanding of it. People don't understand our founding documents. They don't understand a lot of what our founding fathers were trying to do. And a lot of it's not even their fault. A lot of them, you're getting taught in school this revisionist history. You're being taught that, current events are a prime example of this, that all these members of history were racist, and we need to scrub history and bleach it, make it clean so that we can protect people from this racist thought. But in reality, we need to be having those conversations so that we understood where we came from.
Well, and right out of Vladimir Lenin's playbook of scrubbing history. This is very well documented as communist strategy and tactics. Why? And I say it like that because that's who did it. Historically, it was the communists and it was the socialists. They created this stuff. Why do you think it's starting to crop up here in eastern Washington now? Why is this important to everybody in Patriot Radio land? Even if they're not in Spokane Valley, why should they care about this?
So Spokane Valley is a very large city within Washington's borders. We hover right around 9th and 10th as far as the size of our population, and we are the only city in the entire area, really, that is completely made up of conservative council members. And so it is important that we maintain that, because we've got that beachhead in extremely liberal Washington state. Spokane is very liberal on their city council, with the exception of Mike Fagan. So it's important that we maintain that, and then we start using this as a base of operations to preach the message of liberty, because the message of liberty it's a beautiful thing. And when you can bypass what so many of the youth are being taught nowadays and show them that you don't want a nanny state. You want to be able to do what you want to do. And that's what we're offering with freedom, with the cause of liberty. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to move out of my parents' house because I wanted to be out on my own. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And so at 18, I did. I moved out. Well, why would I want to move out of my parents' house just to go right back into a nanny state?
But then you went into the Marine Corps, though.
Yeah, this is true. I did join the Marine Corps right after that. You have a good point. I did 4 years in the Marines right after that, and I know you're a vet as well, Matt. And I heard you talking about the wall that heals, and that was just an incredible event today. And so there's a lot of our population in this area that has gone and served, and certainly understand why. With what I just said, the irony to it, because I did, and you did as well. We joined the military, and we were told what to do for however many years we served.
Yeah, that was tremendous this morning, and it was interesting. Some of the private conversations I had as I was leaving, they were expressing to me that they were so appalled that there would be people in America like Antifa and people in America like Indivisible that literally would want to throw out the Constitution that some of their friends died for. And I think that really is kind of the question right now. I mean, why, it looks like some of these progressives are trying to literally go underground and hide their progressivism and make themselves look like they are, legitimate, pro-business candidates in Spokane Valley. And there's some folks that are enabling them to do that. Why do you think they felt the need suddenly to start changing, who they are? I mean, some of these were clearly linked to Indivisible. I mean, there's in Antifa, there's screen captures of comments they made on some of the pages. Why do you think they're doing it now?
Well, they need to rebrand themselves. They understand that Spokane Valley isn't buying it, that the vast majority of the people who live in this city have a conservative ideology. And so they know that in order to win, they need to rebrand themselves as a conservative or as a Republican. But I really think that it's going to fall flat. People don't like politicians that change with the wind. I mean, if there's anything that Donald Trump showed us during this election cycle was that people were tired of the status quo politician that was willing to say whatever it took to get elected and then completely move away from all of the promises they did when they were campaigning. Donald Trump was able to show us that people wanted somebody who just said it like it was. And I know you have great success with that. And I'm hoping I have great success with that.
Well, if people just don't get hoodwinked when, some Republicans try to give cover for these progressives, and just actually look at who is doing the right things, not saying the right, but doing the right things. I think that, people will see through the garbage and will do the right thing. I mean, that's the key is, though, looking at actions and not words. So I want to shift gears a little bit. What have you guys been doing on the Spokane Valley City Council that you're really proud of?
So we've been doing some really cool stuff. One of the more recent ones that came out was that we had the Moody's bond rating. It was raised to an AA2, and that is the highest rating a city our size can achieve, which is phenomenal when you consider that these fiscal conservative policies, they work, and we're living proof of it, and that agencies are taking notice of it, and they're giving us this bond rating, which actually means that Spokane Valley residents, they benefit from this. And one of the ways they benefit from this, and they do have to actually call their insurance company, but they can actually get a reduced insurance rate because of the bond rating that we have.
Well, besides that, you guys have really taken a tack of, deregulating, making it easy for businesses to move into Spokane Valley. I mean, we have the largest industrial park. Some say the second, but I'm going to say the largest because I think it is. The largest industrial park between Seattle and Minneapolis. People want to come to this place because there are colleges here, there's educated workforce that, can help with jobs, fill in jobs for these businesses. There is infrastructure to support this. They're right on I-90. You're also near a major airport. There's already all kinds of great reasons to be out there, but nobody wants to go into the city of Spokane because of the tax structure and regulation. So how specifically are you guys making it easier for people out in the valley to just be free?
We are literally stealing businesses from Spokane. And it's incredible to consider that because businesses could move just a few more miles over to Idaho, where they have a system at a state level that's much more beneficial typically for businesses, but they're moving to Spokane Valley because they like what we're doing. And, you know, some of the ways that we've been doing this, you talk about the industrial park. We're really pushing the growth of this industrial park. It's a great area for business. And some of the things that we're doing is we're revamping. We're looking at the Barker grade separation at the railroad tracks at Barker and Trent. And most people who live in this area understand that this is a very problematic part of our city. Well, originally the cost associated with going over these railroad tracks was $36 million. And I'm happy to report that I led the charge that balked at those numbers, that asked to relook at this. And ultimately, we just got the report last Tuesday, and we've got 5 different plans now that they're going to present to us, and the costs are ranging from $8 million to $20 million. Incredible savings for the citizens of Spokane Valley. And I know you've been a great help to us, you and Bob McCaslin and Mike Padden, making sure that we got $1.5 million to proceed with this, with the design process. So thank you very much for that. Well, that's just one of the things we're doing to really benefit business owners. We recently revamped the comp plan. We got rid of some useless designations in my mind, and we made it easier for people that are opening businesses to thrive. And we really believe that the best way for government to get involved with business is to really just get out of the way, to push that thriving economy. I really believe that America became great in part because its people appreciated successful businesses. This modern progressive thought exclaims that these business leaders are selfish in nature and that they should be required to give back to their communities. And the mindset that I have is that they're providing service to others. And in this true free market system, only the best products at a far market value, they succeed. And that's, in my mind, how a business actually gives back to its community.
Well, that's what businesses want to do. I mean, you get into business, and obviously you want to be helping fill some niche that is out there. But I have run into so many business owners that give back to the community, and they do so very quietly, and yet are pilloried in mainstream media for being, horrible people. But 80% of businesses are small business. It's actually larger than that, but we'll use 80% for the sake of discussion. Are small businesses, it's mom and pop folks that are employing, maybe 3 to 10 people, helping, fill a specific need in the community, and then also giving back to the community for ball fields and events and all kinds of things. That's what it's supposed to be about. I think that's what progressivism loses. They just automatically presume the worst of people, when it's indeed most of the time, actually, there's a lot of great folks out there trying to do a lot of great things.
Matt, we just got a citizen of Spokane Valley who really loves the city, and he just donated, I think it was around $34,000 to our Parks Department because he loves the city, he loves where he grew up, where his parents lived, and so he wanted to give back to the community. And that's exactly what you're talking about. And that's what progressives would say. No, we need to take this man's money, and we need to divvy it up and make sure that we get quite a bit of that pot. But, in that system that treasures liberty, like we encourage in Spokane Valley, we just had a citizen give that large donation to our city.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. Well, what else are you guys doing on the city council that's expanding freedom and protecting property rights?
Well, one of the other things that is huge on my mind is I've always pushed this agenda of needs versus wants. And I'm always cognizant of that while I'm on the dais, whenever I'm making a decision for the benefit of our citizens. And so this has caught on quite a bit. And Spokane Valley, we're looking at that. When we're looking at our tax rates, we don't engage in the 1% property tax. This is our 9th year now that we have not taken the 1% property tax that is allowed to us by the state. That's just one idea of how we can continue to give back to the community that we have the privilege to serve, because that's what it is for all of us on the council. It's a privilege to serve. We don't look at it as we're an elite group that guides the city. No, we are public servants.
Well, no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just finishing up.
Well, I see at the state level, we have some folks that grow government, 15%, 30% over 2 years. You see at the federal level, massive growth increase in government, way, way above what would necessarily be needed as a ratio per capita. And yet Spokane Valley has kept the growth rate really low. Tell the listeners a little bit about how you guys have done that.
Well, the growth rate for Spokane Valley is it is expanding because people are wanting to come here, and we've traditionally been a community where people come because the lots are big and they have nice houses. We have seen some growth in apartment dwellings, and that's part of the process of making it easier for property owners to do what they want with the property they want. And so there has been some apartment growth as well in Spokane Valley, and there has been some people that have not been happy with that. But it's sort of a process of a free market.
But the growth of government, getting back to kind of Olympia and Washington, D.C., I mean, it's been just outrageous. I mean, it's 30%, growth when per capita it should be way, way, way less than that. And you guys have really kept the growth of government down. And a lot of people are kind of wondering, well, is that possible? Well, yeah, you have to expand a little bit as population expands, but it's really been low. I mean, you guys have kept it, less than 2%?
Yes. And that's something that we tasked our city manager with, is that we required that we wanted to keep that growth way down there because we believed that we believe in the system that we're pushing. This is a salesmanship, honestly. How are we going to talk the talk and not walk the walk? We have to live by these principles that limited government is the way to go, and prove it through the actions of our city.
Right. We go over we talk in Olympia about other cities that are out there, and so many people are looking to you guys and saying, how can you keep your growth rate to less than 2%? How can you do it without raising taxes? How can you guys, actually have no debt or very limited debt compared to all the other cities in Washington State? And really, that's the difference between progressivism and conservatism from a fiscal standpoint.
Which is why it is so essential that we maintain the current city council. And we are working really hard to do that. But as you were talking about earlier, we are facing some really stiff competition, and we're getting it from all sides right now. They're changing tactics, like you talked about, and they are progressives at heart. And anyone who's paying attention to the political system right now out here in the Valley, they understand that. Interestingly enough, Matt, we're actually coming up on the anniversary for the 19th Amendment, which actually occurs on the 26th. And this is something that true Republicans, true conservatives, were part of. This is who pushed it. In reality, the Republican Party was actually the party of equality. We were the ones who pushed for the 19th Amendment, which obviously gave women the right to vote, and in response to that, women the right to vote was passed in 1919. In response to that, in 1920, women overwhelmingly went to the polls and elected a Republican president, who was Harding, and then followed by Coolidge. It's actually pretty cool. I'll talk about my wife here a little bit because I'm pretty proud of her. But the local Republican Party actually just asked her to be in a commercial. And it's all over the internet right now, going to be played on television. But she's talking about property rights for the Republican Party.
And I think this is the key part of everything that we're talking about. People get upset with Republicans or Democrats just saying all these promises on the campaign trail and then never delivering. And then you have a city council that actually does what it says it's going to do: keep not raise taxes, keep growth massively limited, growth of government massively limited, while growth of the community massively expands, and continue to protect property rights, maintain the fact that you are not a sanctuary city, and And some Republicans just can't stand. And I don't understand it, because that is what the party platform is. Now, this is a nonpartisan race, but the fact of the matter is Republicans vote one way for one worldview, and progressives vote for a totally different worldview. What would you say are the massive contrasts between you and the progressive slate that is out there?
That's a really easy one, and I'll group the entire Spokane Valley City Council into this one. We are for limited government. The progressives, they want to control your lives, and they do that in all sorts of different fashions, however they can, through higher taxes, through more government regulation, and through the entitlement programs in reality, because that is just another method of control. When you become subservient to the government, when you become dependent on the government. The beauty of the Valley Council is that what we offer you is for you to fail or succeed on your own accord. That's the beauty of liberty. These days we're constantly subjected to progressive ideologies, and that many proclaim that we as a society have advanced well beyond our original documents. You hear all the time that the Constitution is a living document. And going back to President Coolidge, he really hit the nail on the head here when he attacked progressives for what they were. And he says that the truths laid forth in our founding documents, they're eternal. These principles that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, and that governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed. These rights are final. There's no progress beyond them. Progressivism is a farce, and it's not dedicated to moving forward, but it's regressive. It's regressive to a time when equality of rights was non-existent. So that is, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty, that is what you're facing here out in the Valley. You have got those who treasure liberty and those who want to take away your rights.
So that really is the question. Do people want a mini city of Spokane, or do they want to keep the capital of free Washington? That really is it.
That's exactly what it comes down to, and we need help. We need help from your listeners. We're getting out there. We're doorbelling, but if you can join us, we have an event on Saturday, 9 to noon. We're going to be all over the Valley. You can get a hold of me. My phone number, my cell phone is 999-0479. If anybody'd like to come out and help, we'd love to have you out there. This thing, it also takes a lot of money to fight this. The progressives are better funded than we are. They've got organizations all over this country that donate a lot of money to getting them elected.
Well, if people want to find out more information about you and maybe communicate with you, how can they do that? Where can they go?
I'm on Facebook, retain Councilman Caleb Collier on Facebook. I've got a website, calebcollier.com. And then, like I said, number, if anybody was scrambling for a pen, it's 999-0479. Give me a call. Even if you hate what I'm saying, I will talk to you. We can have a great debate over the phone, or we can meet for some coffee, or whatever you want to do. But those are the best methods in order to contact me.
All right. Well, take care of yourself, and thank you once again, Caleb, for everything that you're doing. God bless you, and we're going to be praying for you and your family. And I just encourage everybody listening to the radio show today, if you get the opportunity, just contact Caleb, get to know him, get to know the things that he's been doing in the fight for freedom and liberty, and also thank him for his service, especially after we went to the healing wall today. Caleb, thanks again for joining me on Patriot Radio. Take care, and God bless, my friend.
Thanks, Matt. You too.
All right, well, getting back to the healing wall very quickly. Again, it's going to be here, I think, for about 3 days. They're going to be reading names off of the local list of those killed during the Vietnam War. I believe at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. every day. They'll read the names and ring a bell between each name. It's actually very, very powerful. And many of these folks, actually, my father knew. And it's just one of those opportunities, we shouldn't pass up. I mean, here it is, and it's a a miniature, but it's actually quite large wall replica that is also out there, in addition to the van that they have that has the kind of facial wall, with pictures of people from our area that were killed over in Vietnam. Well, again, if you get a chance, visit Caleb's website. Caleb Collier is one of the rising stars in the liberty and freedom movement, and it isn't just talking about it. He's doing it. He's standing on the line when the doors are closed and nobody's watching. He's doing the right things, and that is what we need in the political realm today. People who do what they say they're going to do. Down-to-earth folks who listen and who also have a backbone. Counter that to this progressive attempt to infiltrate Spokane Valley and turn it into a little Spokane city. I mean, my goodness. How many of you want potholes in Spokane Valley? I mean, you go into Spokane City and you're driving around in potholes all over the place. When you come out to Spokane Valley, it's smooth. It's beautiful. I mean, do we really want a little Spokane City out here? No, absolutely not. That's why we're in Spokane Valley. That's why we incorporated. So we got to be vigilant, and we got to vote. Many people still think their vote doesn't count, but votes can be decided by 1,000 people. Your vote does absolutely count. I mean, it is folly to say otherwise. We just need to get involved, do what we say we believe, act what we say we believe. And freedom and liberty will remain out here in the capital of free Washington, and it will continue to be a model city for the rest of the country with no debt, no increased taxes, good roads, good public safety. This is Matt Shea. Thank you very much for joining me on Patriot Radio today. May God bless you.